The bunkhouse, speak up. I won't ask you again what you saw in there.
Easy now, breathe with me.
Slow and steady. You're doing fine.
I said leave it. The cook's voice cut across the yard before she saw who held the broom. She stood by the prep table, hands wet, knife down, already annoyed. Boots shifted. The sweeping stopped. A small shape froze near the fence line. The cook squinted, confused by the height, the stillness, the way the broom stayed upright like it had been trained before dawn. The girl did not look up. Her hands stayed wrapped around the handle, knuckles pale, fingers cracked. Dust hung between them. The cook stepped closer. "You ain't staff," she said. The girl answered without moving. "I am leaving it." Her voice was flat, practiced, like she had learned not to waste sound. The cook felt watched, felt wrong, felt heat crawl up her neck slowly. She stared at the girl now. Too clean-faced, too quiet. "How old are you?" she asked. The girl shrugged once. "They told me to stay busy." "Who told you?" the cook asked. Silence stretched long enough to hurt. The broom leaned. The wind shifted. The ranch breathed around them. The cook waited. Her jaw tight. Her patience thin. The moment heavy, unmoving, sharp, alive. "Where's your people?" the cook asked. The girl lifted one finger and pointed toward the bunkhouse without turning. She did not step back. She did not step forward. The cook noticed her hands then. Raw skin. Old cuts. Calluses where no child should have them. Work hands. Used hands. Hands that knew orders. The cook felt something settle low in her chest, dark, familiar, permanent. "Hey," someone yelled from the far side of the yard. "Cook." The cook flinched and turned her head halfway, eyes never leaving the girl. "What?" she snapped back. "You need it at the house," the voice said. "Now." The cook swallowed. When she looked back, the girl still stood there, waiting. Like she had nowhere else to be, nowhere else allowed, nowhere else alive, silent, ready. The cook faced the voice fully then but did not step away. Her body stayed angled, a shield she did not name. She raised her hand once at the girl. "Don't move," she said quietly. The girl nodded. The cook turned toward the house, carrying the girl with her eyes, refusing to leave her behind. Even as the ranch watched, measured, remembered, judged, waited, breathing. The walk to the house was short but heavy. Gravel popped under her boots. She felt eyes on her back. No one spoke. No one laughed. The girl stayed where she was told. The cook could feel that stillness like a hook in her spine, pulling, daring her to turn around again. To prove the moment real, sharp, dangerous, alive, growing, watching, waiting, patient, quiet. Inside her chest, old memories stirred. Kitchens where voices ruled. Men who barked orders. Women who learned silence early. She hated that memory. She hated how easy it felt to obey the shout instead of the child. The cook slowed her steps. She did not look back yet. She let the pause stretch, just long enough to mean something. To push back quietly, stubbornly, fully. From behind her, the yard stayed silent. No footsteps followed. No orders came. That was worse. She reached the bottom step and stopped. Her hand hovered near the rail. The house loomed close now, with dark windows watching. She knew once she went inside, things would shift. She breathed once and stood still. Holding the moment open, stretched, listening, counting, choosing, bracing, grounded, ready, set. Behind her, the girl did not move. She watched the cook the way people watch doors, with hope and fear mixed together. She waited for permission or dismissal. The broom rested against her leg, forgotten. The girl's eyes followed the cook's shoulders, the tension there, the question there. She stayed quiet. Quiet had kept her safe so far. In places like this, quiet survived. Quiet lived. The cook turned at last, just her head, just enough. The girl met her eyes fast, like she had been waiting for it. "Stay," the cook said again, softer now. The girl nodded once. No smile. No thanks. Just trust placed careful and thin. The cook turned back toward the house, carrying that look with her. Like weight, like promise, like warning, like truth, like fire. As she stepped forward, the shout from the yard came again, sharper now, impatient. "Cook!" She did not answer right away. Her foot hit the first step. Wood creaked. The sound carried. She moved toward the voice without leaving the girl behind, not in her mind, not in her body, not anymore. The wrench watched her choose. And remembered, measured, marked, held, waited, silent, awake. "She yours?" The voice came from the corner of the barnyard where men leaned on rails and measured everything by glance. The cook's eyes flicked toward it but kept her hands on the broom she'd taken from the girl. "Ain't mine," she said flat, stepping closer. The girl stayed behind her, still, silent, a shadow pressed into the gravel. "Then whose?" One of the ranch hands pressed. "Don't matter," the cook replied. "Everything matters," he said, teeth tight. "She helps." "That's all you need," the foreman added quietly, leaning in like he could smell defiance. The girl shifted her weight but did not speak. Then finally, her voice, small, deliberate, "I don't get in the way." The cook knelt, leveled with her. "You already are," she said. The girl looked at her, wide-eyed, unblinking, like she had expected this answer all along. No one else moved. The air was thick with dust, horse sweat, and quiet threats. The cook reached forward and took the broom from the girl's hands. Handle smooth, worn, too heavy for someone so small. She set it against the wall. The girl's fingers lingered on it for a moment before letting go. The ranch hands watched, lips pressed tight. The wind stirred, carrying the smell of hay and wood smoke. The cook stood, brushing off dust from her apron. The girl stayed where she was, shoulders straight, chin up, waiting. Questions hovered around them, unspoken but alive. Who trained her? Who let her do this work? Why did no one claim her? The cook felt the weight of those questions settle like stones in her gut. "Broom hits the wall," the foreman said, voice low. He didn't move toward it, didn't need to. The sound echoed through the barn, sharp, alerting anyone who might have been hiding or watching. The cook felt it too, like a warning, like a bell. The girl did not flinch. She just held herself still, steady. The cook wondered how long she had been this way, trained to endure silence, trained to survive on half orders and unseen threats. Someone muttered from behind a stack of feed sacks. "She ain't like the others." The cook turned slowly. Eyes scanning the barnyard, all corners, all shadows. All men shifted under her gaze. The girl's small frame seemed to grow taller in that quiet, dangerous way only children with no one to claim them can. The cook took a step closer. "You've got to tell me your name," she said. The girl's lips pressed tight. She did not answer. "Fine," the cook said. "I'll remember you anyway." The foreman's eyes narrowed. "Don't get too involved." The cook didn't look at him, didn't break stride. "Too late," she said, voice low, deliberate. The girl's eyes flicked toward the foreman. He stayed quiet, measuring. That's all he could do. That's all any of them could do. The cook crouched by the girl again. "You don't have to talk. You just don't leave." The girl's hands tightened into fists. Nothing moved. She was listening, calculating, holding. She understood more than she should. The cook let the silence stretch, measured the shadows of the barn, the voices of men around them. The girl's gaze held steady, fearless, and quiet, claiming the space like it belonged to her already. A dog barked in the distance. Metal clanged somewhere near the stables. The cook glanced toward it but kept the girl in her periphery. "We're going inside," she said. The girl nodded once, almost imperceptibly. No one followed immediately. The foreman's lips pressed into a thin line. "You know they'll talk," he said. They always do. The cook did not reply. The girl shifted a step closer, brushing against her leg. She did not speak, did not flinch. Only waited. The cook led her toward the main house. Gravel crunched under boots, dry, echoing. Shadows stretched from the building across the yard. The men watched, silent, waiting for the cook to falter, to make a wrong move. She did not. The girl stayed behind her, a small shadow in tall boots. Step by step, the cook felt the eyes of the ranch on her back, weighing every choice, measuring every hesitation. The girl, quiet, invisible to them, carried her own weight, dangerous and still. Inside the yard gate, the wind shifted again. Dust swirled. The girl's hair fell loose over her forehead. She didn't brush it back. The cook noticed the fine lines of her hands again. Work hands, older than they should be. Scars, calluses, fingers bent by unseen labor. The cook's chest tightened. She felt responsibility, fear, anger, and the faint thrill of rebellion all at once. She led the girl to the porch, hand brushing against the railing. The girl followed, careful, silent. "Stay close," the cook said. The girl nodded. Not a word more. Shadows lengthened. Windows reflected nothing, showing only dark glass. Inside, voices would speak orders, warnings, threats, memories. Outside, the ranch waited. The cook and the girl walked into the house together, step by step. Silence surrounded them like a cord, taut, fragile, alive. The broom rested against the wall, forgotten. The girl's eyes never left the cook's back. She was patient. She was ready. The cook paused at the door. She glanced back once. The barnyard was emptying. Ranch hands returned to work, but eyes lingered, quick, sharp, careful. The girl stayed still, watching the cook. The weight of her presence, unclaimed and unafraid, pressed into the space between them. The cook let her hand fall on the doorknob and felt it tremble slightly, the tension, the watchfulness. She turned fully, pushed the door open, and led the girl inside. The world of shadows and voices awaited, but for now, the girl had made her own space, unspoken, firm, and quiet. They crossed the threshold. The cook kept a hand near her waist, half on instinct, half for protection. The girl followed, step for step, like a shadow with its own mind. The house smelled of old wood, dust, faint decay. The cook noticed a loose board near the entryway and the girl stepped over it without thinking, practiced. The cook's chest tightened again. She understood more now. This was a place of rules, of memory, of silence, and of power. And somehow, in the middle of it, the small, steady, quiet thing, the girl, belonged. The cook exhaled quietly. "You're safe here for now," she whispered, almost to herself. The girl's eyes met hers, and for the first time, a faint, nearly invisible acknowledgement passed between them. Not a smile. Not relief. Something deeper. Something unspoken. A promise, perhaps, that the cook understood, and that she would carry this with her, long past the moment, long past the yard, into the rooms and shadows of the house, into the quiet that lived behind locked doors and old photographs. Exactly as the cook pushed the door fully open, the girl's small hand brushed against her leg. No words. No sound. Only the touch. The cook felt the weight of it, recognized it, and led the girl into the house, ready for the answers or the trouble that would come next. The ranch watched from outside. The dust settled. The broom leaned against the wall, empty. Shadows moved. The cook and the girl crossed into the house together, unbroken, unafraid, and waiting for the world to make its next move. The cook pushed the door open and stepped inside, the girl close behind. Dust motes hung in the air like slow, silent ghosts. The smell of old wood and faint rot wrapped around them. Light came through high windows, cutting sharp lines across the floorboards. She glanced at the girl. "You've been in here before?" The girl shook her head. "Only the kitchen." Cook nodded once, letting the silence stretch between them. The house seemed to hum under their feet, alive with old voices and unspoken rules. "Who told you to sweep?" the cook asked, eyes scanning the walls. The girl's gaze lifted slightly, calm and precise. "The lady," she said. The cook froze. "Which lady?" "The one that cries at night," the girl answered without hesitation. That was all. No more words, no explanation. The cook felt a chill creep up her spine. Footsteps upstairs, soft but deliberate, a woman's voice weak, angry, pregnant. The cook tightened her jaw, listening. The foreman's warning from the barnyard echoed in her mind. "Don't involve yourself." She pressed her lips together. "Too late," she muttered under her breath, flat, determined. The girl followed, steady, knowing where not to step, avoiding boards that creaked, shadowed corners. The cook saw the crooked sheriff's badge framed on the wall, the photos of dead men and women in stiff poses, staring down through time. Each step felt like trespassing, but she moved anyway. "Stay here," the cook said, lowering herself near the girl. No hesitation. The girl nodded. She leaned slightly against the wall, eyes tracing shadows, calculating distance, movement, sound. Upstairs, the weak voice rose again, sharper, broken with pain. The cook could feel the house itself tightening, holding its breath. Every creak, every echo, seemed louder now. She felt the tension coil inside her chest, old memories of women screaming alone, of orders barked and ignored, of silence learned too young. A door upstairs slammed. Not hard, not violent, but enough to startle. The girl flinched just slightly, more from surprise than fear. Cook crouched and whispered, "You okay?" The girl nodded again, unblinking, a shadow that didn't bend. She understood more than she should. She always understood more. The cook noticed the floorboards beneath their feet, the worn edges, the patterns of carelessness or control that spoke louder than any words. "Can you hear me?" the woman upstairs called. Her voice broke, strained. Cook's gaze shifted, tracking the sound, measuring the distance. The girl stayed quiet. The cook's instinct sharpened, waiting. Every second carried weight. Every movement mattered. The girl's eyes met hers. Calm. Observing. Ready. Cook exhaled softly, steadying herself. She could not leave. She would not leave. From the hall, a shadow moved. The foreman appeared just inside the doorway, quiet but present. "Don't involve yourself," he said again, low, measured. Cook looked at him. His eyes flicked to the girl. "Too late," she repeated, and left the words hanging. The foreman studied her, weighed the risk, and stepped back. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling shutters, sliding dust along the floors. The house seemed to whisper. Cook and girl moved slowly down the hallway. The girl's steps were precise, careful. She avoided the dark corners where the floorboards were weak. Upstairs, the woman moaned, a sound stretched tight with pain. The cook felt it deep in her chest. The girl's hand brushed against hers briefly. No words, only acknowledgement, solidarity, understanding. The house absorbed them, silent witness, ready to speak only when forced. "Can you help her?" the cook asked. The girl's eyes did not leave hers. "I can try," she said. Not confident, not questioning, just stating. Cook nodded. "Then we go upstairs." Every step creaked. Every corner held shadows. The girl anticipated, predicting the sound, the shift, the threat. Cook admired it silently, though she would never say so. They reached the base of the stairs. The moaning continued, low, fractured. Cook put a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Step carefully." The girl did. Step by step, up the stairs, counting each creak, holding herself still, ready. Cook followed close, feeling the air tighten around them, old memories crawling up her spine. Halfway up, a framed photograph caught her eye, a man in uniform, dead eyes staring through time. The girl did not look. She had learned to survive by ignoring ghosts. Cook felt her own pulse quicken. A sudden scream tore through the upper hall. Sharp, loud, human, and raw. The girl's eyes widened briefly, but she did not move. Cook grabbed her hand, guiding her forward. "Stay close." The woman's cries filled the stairwell, echoing off the walls. The cook's chest heaved with tension, old fear, and new determination mixing in the tight space. They moved as one, careful, deliberate, silent but present, holding their ground in the haunted, memory-soaked house. At the landing, the woman was visible now, pale, sweating, gripping the bedpost. Cook felt her stomach knot. The girl released her hand and stepped forward, calm and steady. Cook watched, measured, and waited. The room smelled of sweat, dust, and faint decay. Shadows moved across the walls as if alive. The woman's eyes locked on the girl, confusion, pain, and recognition mingling. The cook felt the weight of what was coming, the way the house held its secrets, how the shadows kept their own counsel. "You're here," the woman said, voice trembling. The girl nodded once. "I am." Silence hung. Then another moan. The cook stayed in the doorway, watching, waiting, breathing, counting, holding space. Shadows shifted. The girl moved closer, instinct guiding her. The house seemed to lean in, listening. The cook let the quiet fill the room. Every sound mattered. Every movement was a choice. Every step carved out the space between them, defining it, claiming it, holding it steady. The scream cut again, sharp and raw. Cook felt her heart tighten. The girl was steady. The house trembled with history, with fear, with quiet, unspoken truths. Cook exhaled, steadying herself, letting the moment stretch, letting them move through it together. The house that didn't ask, that held its memories in boards and dust and silent voices, had not yet decided what it would reveal. But Cook and the girl were here, and that mattered. They had stepped into the space, taken it, and held it, waiting for what came next. The moaning stopped. Silence dropped hard, thick, almost violent, but it didn't last. The woman's breathing hitched again. Cook moved closer, careful, hands empty but ready. The girl followed, calm, as if she already knew what to do. She did not speak, only watched, measured, waiting. The room smelled of sweat and dust and something sharper underneath, fear that had sat in the corners for weeks. The cook's chest tightened. She felt it press into her lungs. "Get out," the woman gasped, eyes wide, arms trembling on the bedpost. Cook shook her head. "She stays." Her voice was flat but firm. The woman tried to shout, weak, broken. "You don't decide that." Cook's jaw set. "Neither do you." The girl stepped closer and slipped one small hand into the woman's palm. "Breathe like this," she said softly, tracing the inhale and exhale with her fingers. The woman stared at her, disbelief written across her face, and then she tried. In, out, shallow at first, then deeper. Cook crouched nearby, ready. Every sound in the room was amplified, every movement sharp. Shadows clung to the corners, stretched along the walls, moved in time with the breathing. The girl stayed with the woman's hand, calm, steady, small fingers pressed against her, guiding rhythm. Cook glanced down the hall. Empty. No one would intervene, no one else would interfere. Only the three of them in the room with the history that pressed against every board. Then the baby came. A small, wet, raw sound, almost nothing at first. Cook felt her heart hitch, then hold tight. The room fell into tense quiet. The girl didn't flinch. She held the woman's hand tighter. The baby's skin was slick, wrinkled, red against the coarse blanket. Still. Too still. The silence stretched, impossible, weighty. Cook knelt beside them, assessing, waiting for signs, listening to the hush. Her hands hovered, ready to act, to push, to save, to hold. The woman whispered something, low, broken, desperate. The girl leaned closer, brushing damp hair from her face. "She's alive," the girl said softly. Cook's hands moved instinctively. She brushed the wet cloth from the baby's face, chest, mouth. A tiny cough, a grunt. Then a wail. Crying. Relief, sharp, brutal, pressed into the cook's chest. The woman collapsed back against the bed, trembling, sweat dripping. The girl didn't move. She held the newborn, steady, solemn, eyes wide, calm in the chaos, knowing what to do before anyone could tell her. Cook exhaled slowly. Her hands shook slightly, the tension uncoiling. She glanced at the girl. "Good work," she said quietly. No smile, just acknowledgement. The woman's eyes rested on them both. "You helped," she said, voice weak. The girl simply nodded, still holding the baby like she was meant to. Cook watched her, thought about how someone so small could be so steady. The room held its breath with them. Shadows lingered, corners whispered, walls remembered. Outside the window, the wind pressed against the panes, rattling slightly. Cook leaned close to the woman, brushing damp hair from her forehead. "You did fine," she said. The woman shook her head. She stopped, words lost to the room, lost to the quiet. The girl's small hand rested on the baby's chest, guiding tiny movements, adjusting, steadying. Cook watched, aware of how fragile everything was, aware of how easily it could shatter, aware of how brave the girl was, and how the house absorbed it all without asking. Minutes passed like hours. The baby slept fitfully now, comforted by the girl's steady hands. The woman leaned back, exhausted, sweat cooling on her skin. Cook stood, brushing dust from her apron. The girl looked up at her, calm, patient, almost knowing. Cook nodded once. "We stay until she wakes fully. Keep her warm." The girl inclined her head, obeying without hesitation, instinctively. Cook moved toward the door, checking the hall, making sure the silence outside had not shifted, had not turned dangerous. No one came. No one watched. The wind whispered through the eaves. Cook returned, kneeling beside the girl and the baby. The newborn stirred again, tiny fists curling and uncurling. Cook felt the weight of what had just happened press into the room. The girl's face was still calm, unshaken, as if she had been expecting this all along. Cook touched her shoulder briefly. "You're steady." The girl met her eyes. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her hands said everything the words could not. The woman finally exhaled, a long, slow release of tension. She stared at the girl. You know how to do this." The girl simply nodded. Cook watched her carefully. She felt a quiet, growing respect, unspoken but absolute. The room seemed lighter somehow, though the shadows still lingered. They had survived the moment together. Nothing else mattered yet, only the quiet, the baby, and the steady presence of the girl. Outside, the ranch breathed. The wind shifted again, carrying dust and the faint smell of smoke. Cook stood at the window, watching. Inside, the girl adjusted the baby against her chest, calm, solemn, practiced. The woman leaned against the bedpost, trembling but breathing. Cook exhaled again, chest still tight. This was only the beginning. But for now, the baby was alive. The girl held her brother. They had won a small, sharp victory in the house that did not ask, in the room that remembered everything. Cook's eyes softened for a moment, watching the girl. "You'll teach me, someday," she said, voice low. The girl glanced up, silent, then back to the baby. Cook smiled faintly, a small curve, brief. The baby stirred again, tiny cries echoing lightly. Cook's gaze swept the room once more. Shadows and walls, boards and dust, the girl and the newborn, the woman and her exhaustion. The house did not ask for gratitude or acknowledgement. They moved quietly, carefully, ready for what came next. The baby's cry carried, drawing attention through the house. Cook felt it tug at the air, at the rooms, pulling power, pulling history, pulling everyone toward what had just happened. The girl held the newborn tighter, steady, solemn. Cook followed them with her eyes. This was a moment to hold, to remember, to act upon. Silence stretched again, but this time it was gentle, protective. Outside, the wind shifted. Inside, the newborn breathed. The girl did not waver. Cook did not move. All of them waited together, quiet, tense, unbroken. The door banged open, sharp against the quiet of the room. A man stepped inside, polished boots clicking on the wooden floor. Sheriff, the cook thought immediately, the way he carried himself, calm, measured, authority baked into every movement. He didn't smile, not really, only the faintest curve, like he was used to holding everything in check. The baby stirred in the girl's arms, tiny fists curling, and the girl's eyes narrowed, protective and steady. "Who's the father?" the sheriff asked, voice smooth, controlled, like he already knew the answer but wanted it stated. Cook's jaw tightened. "Does it matter?" The woman whispered, barely audible. "Always does," he said, not looking at her. Cook's eyes snapped to the girl. She stayed silent, small chest rising and falling with calm breaths. The sheriff's gaze shifted, sharp, lingering. "She yours?" he asked the girl next, measuring, waiting. "No," the girl said quietly. The sheriff's thin smile widened just slightly. "Then she's ours," he said. His voice didn't carry threat, not exactly, but the weight behind it was clear. The girl tightened her hold on the baby. "This is my brother," she said firmly. Silence hit the room, heavy, tense. The sheriff paused, tilting his head, watching, calculating. "That so?" he asked finally, almost conversational, almost like he didn't care, though the weight said otherwise. Cook stepped forward, deliberately, hands relaxed but ready. The sheriff reached, as if to take the baby, a polite, controlled gesture. Cook's hand pressed between them. "Not today," she said, flat, final. The girl's arms held the newborn tighter. He didn't flinch, the sheriff, just regarded them both, eyes sharp, calculating risk, measuring threat, weighing power. Cook felt every second stretch, the room closing in, history pressing down from the walls, the shadow of the ranch outside, waiting, watching. "Property, huh?" the sheriff asked quietly. Cook did not answer. "She's not property," she said finally, voice low, hard. The sheriff's eyebrows rose slightly, not in surprise, more in curiosity. He glanced at the woman. She trembled, relief and fear tangled in her eyes. He smiled thin again. "Rules are rules," he said, voice soft but iron. Cook's eyes stayed on the girl. "You don't move," she thought, and the girl didn't. They held the baby like it was the center of the universe, like it mattered more than rules or power or history. The woman exhaled, faint, fragile, almost lost in the tension. "Thank you," she whispered to the girl. The sheriff leaned back slightly, assessing, calculating, weighing which side the cook had chosen. His gaze returned to the baby. "Name?" he asked, trying, testing. The girl ignored him, eyes steady on her brother. Cook stepped slightly forward again, protective, unyielding. The sheriff's smile thinned, acknowledging he could not push further today. "Then you keep it," he said finally, almost a concession, almost testing boundaries. The girl looked up, small eyes calm, calculating. Cook pressed a hand to the baby's back, steadying, guarding, saying without words, "You are safe here, for now." The sheriff studied them both a moment longer, then turned, leaving the room as quietly as he had entered. Boots clicked down the hallway, fading, leaving dust and tension behind. Cook exhaled, muscles relaxing slightly. The woman collapsed back onto the bed, exhausted, trembling, crying softly now, relief breaking through. The girl remained still, holding the newborn carefully, solemnly, steady. Cook crouched beside them, brushing a loose lock of hair from the woman's forehead. "You're all right," she said softly. The woman nodded, still trembling. "For now," the cook added, voice low, careful, acknowledging the temporary nature of safety, the fragility of trust in this place. The baby stirred again, tiny cries sharp in the quiet room. The girl adjusted her hold, steadying him, calming him with the soft rhythm of her hands. Cook watched them both, aware of the weight of what had just happened. They had survived authority, power, and history all at once. The walls, the shadows, the rooms full of old memories seemed to exhale along with her. For a moment, the house softened. Outside, wind shifted through shutters, rattling lightly. Dust danced in the sunlight that cut through high windows. Cook rose slowly, moving to the window, scanning the yard, the ranch beyond, the shadows of men who had measured them. Inside, the girl kept holding the baby. Inside, the woman rested, recovering, breathing. The house hummed softly with memory, witness, quiet approval. Cook returned to them, crouching again. "We keep moving," she said softly. We don't wait for the world to decide. The girl's eyes flicked up to hers, calm, understanding. She nodded once, tight and certain. The baby stirred, arms curling. Cook felt the pulse of life, fragile, fierce, precious. This was theirs to guard, theirs to protect, theirs to claim in this haunted, memory-soaked space. The woman finally whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." Cook shook her head. "No thanks," she said. "Just hold them. Keep them steady. That's enough." The girl's eyes met hers briefly, acknowledging the words, absorbing them, understanding that actions spoke louder than any gratitude. Cook looked to the door, listening, alert. Outside, nothing moved. No one challenged them yet. The house seemed still, alive only with their presence. The baby cried again, tiny, sharp, demanding attention. The girl adjusted, held tighter, calm, precise. Cook watched, measured, silent. Shadows pressed along the walls, shifting, listening, holding their stories. The woman leaned back, finally breathing normally. Relief was there, faint but real. Cook glanced at the girl. "You've done more than anyone could ask," she said softly. The girl's face remained solemn, steady, unyielding. Cook exhaled, letting herself relax slightly. The sheriff was gone, but power lingered, always lingering. The girl held her brother, steady and careful, and the house, this room, and the people in it had survived a challenge, small and sharp, necessary and dangerous. Cook stood, brushing dust from her apron, ready for the next moment, the next choice. Outside, the wind shifted again. Inside, the baby slept, held by steady, small hands, and the room was quiet, waiting, holding its breath. The yard was empty now, sun low, shadows long, wind teasing the loose boards. Cook stepped outside, the baby still cradled against the girl's chest, careful, steady. The sheriff had left, but the tension clung, heavy, like smoke that refused to clear. The girl's eyes tracked every movement, unblinking, unafraid. Cook felt it, the weight of unseen authority, the way the land held its memory, and how women carried truths in fragments, whispered, hidden, waiting to be heard. "You throw things away here?" the cook asked, nodding toward an old wooden well, half collapsed, surrounded by weeds. Dust rose from the earth as she leaned closer. "We forget them," came a quiet reply. An older ranch woman emerged from the shadows, hands rough, face lined with sun and time. "Baby's been disappearing," she said, voice low, almost a warning, almost a confession. The cook felt her chest tighten, the words sinking into the dry air. The well seemed to hum, dark and deep, absorbing them, holding secrets that no one else dared name. The sheriff's voice echoed faintly from memory. "Watch yourself," he had warned. Cook let the words hang. She crouched near the well's edge, peering into the dark, cold depths. The girl stepped closer, small hand brushing hers. "The well cries," she said, soft, unflinching, like the statement itself carried weight beyond reason. Silence stretched between them, the wind shaking loose shingles, rattling boards. The cook exhaled, slow, deep, feeling the land beneath her feet breathe history, grief, and power all at once. A dog barked in the distance. Metal clanged near the stables. The cook straightened. "Keep still," she murmured. The girl obeyed without hesitation, eyes focused, aware, listening. The older woman crouched beside them, voice barely a whisper. "It knows everything," she said. Cook nodded, feeling it, understanding, the depth of memory embedded in dirt and wood. The girl tilted her head toward the well, watching, waiting, steady. The baby shifted lightly in her arms, eyes wide, calm under the shadow of the deep hole. Wind tore through the yard, lifting dust and loose straw. Cook noticed how the well seemed darker, heavier, pulling at the edges of memory, stories buried deep. "People forget," the older woman said again, "but the land remembers." The girl tightened her hold on the baby, eyes flicking to the cook, understanding the weight of unspoken truths. Cook leaned back, brushing dust from her apron, feeling the pull of the past, the pressure of secrets. The well's presence was almost alive, a witness, an archivist of pain and survival. "Babies vanish," the older woman continued, "and no one speaks their names." Cook swallowed. She felt the weight of every loss, every hidden story, every silent cry. "Not this one," she said quietly. The girl's eyes met hers, solemn, approving, steady. Together they stood by the well, listening. The wind moaned through the boards, rattling, shifting. Silence stretched, heavy, meaningful, full of things too old to name aloud. Cook's gaze swept the horizon. The ranch lay quiet, cattle grazing, men hidden in barns, shadows moving just at the edge of perception. The girl's small hand rested lightly on the baby's back, guiding, steadying, protective. Cook felt the air shift again, a warning or perhaps acknowledgement from the land. The well loomed between them and the world, dark and patient, holding its secrets like stones in cold water. The older woman straightened, turning back toward the house. "Time to go inside," she said softly. The cook nodded. The girl looked down at the well one last time, eyes solemn, small fingers brushing the baby's hair. "It's still crying," she whispered. Cook said nothing. She understood. Some truths weren't meant to be spoken. Only remembered. Only acknowledged in silence. Only carried carefully. Cook stepped toward the house, the girl following, baby in her arms, steady and calm. Shadows stretched across the yard, long and patient. The well remained behind, dark, humming, knowing. The wind whispered through loose boards and shingles, a reminder that the land never forgets. The older woman walked ahead, quiet, watchful. The cook glanced once more at the well, then turned. Inside, rooms waited, history waited, authority waited, but for now, they carried their own truth with them. The cook exhaled, brushing dust from her hands, letting her shoulders loosen slightly. The girl adjusted the baby, steady, solemn, small hands carrying life with careful precision. Cook felt the pulse of responsibility, power, memory, and hope all intertwined. Shadows followed them across the yard, long and slow, but they moved together, solid, unbroken. As the door closed behind them, the well remained, dark, quiet, watching, waiting. The wind shifted, carrying dust in whispers, and the cook understood that some things could not be forgotten, some losses would always echo, and some courage had to be measured quietly. The girl held the baby tighter. Cook stayed close, attentive. Outside, the ranch watched. Inside, they moved as one, carrying the weight of truth down the slope of memory, toward what came next. Smoke curled along the rafters before anyone noticed the flames. A faint heat hissed through the kitchen window. Cook smelled it first, sharp, sweet, wrong. The girl tightened her hold on the baby, small fists curling around him, steady, protective. Cook moved fast, scanning the room. Nothing large yet, just sparks, whispers of danger. Men in the yard shouted, voices rising, tense. Someone yelled, "Who lit it?" "Doesn't matter, put it out," another answered, running toward the barn. Cook felt her chest tighten. Sparks hit the wooden floor, tiny, deliberate. The fire had started somewhere strategic, small, controlled, but it carried the message loud. Panic fractured the hierarchy. Men ran, some yelling at others, some just staring, frozen, calculating. Cook kept moving, eyes sharp, hands ready. The girl held the baby close, careful, calm, a small shadow in the chaos. Mother emerged from the bedroom, hair wild, sweating, tears running down her face. "You did this to me," she shouted at the sheriff, voice raw. He raised his hands, calm, almost amused, eyes sharp with authority. "You did it to yourself," he said, voice smooth, deliberate, but the words held weight. The cook stepped closer, shouting over flames and smoke, over voices and fear. "Not tonight," she said. The girl pressed the baby against her chest, shielding him from sparks, eyes steady, calm. Ranch hands hesitated, some choosing sides, some frozen between old loyalty and new fear. Sparks flared along the rafters. Cook grabbed a bucket from the corner, tossing water onto small flames, while others scrambled. The sheriff stepped forward, hands raised, assessing the chaos, calculating who would break, who would falter. Smoke pressed against the walls, swallowing corners, moving along the boards like a living thing. "Stop it," a voice shouted from the porch. The foreman emerged, calm, commanding, but even he faltered at the heat and the smell of burning wood. The cook moved between him and the girl, protective, defensive. She could feel the fire in her chest too, the old anger, the rage of being pushed, silenced, ignored. Sparks flew toward the ceiling, small embers landing on shadows, crawling across the floor. The mother confronted the sheriff again. "You can't take them," she hissed. The sheriff's smile was thin, cold, measured. "Rules," he said, voice steady, "are rules." Cook's hands moved fast, moving buckets, pushing embers aside, shielding the girl, shielding the baby. The girl's face was calm, but her grip tightened, small knuckles white, steady. Sparks bounced off walls. Smoke climbed fast. The air burned in their lungs, but they pressed on, careful, precise, deliberate. Outside, ranch hands argued, shouted, ran in circles, some calling for help, some frozen by indecision. Cook's voice rose above it all. "Move," she barked. The girl's arms held the baby tighter. Every instinct screamed danger, but she remained calm, steady, a small center of control. Cook pushed another ember from the edge of the floor. The smoke thickened, pressing, heavy, almost suffocating. The fire demanded attention, truth, reckoning. The sheriff hesitated, assessing who had power now, who would hold it, who would falter first. He could feel the shift in the room, in the yard, in the tension. The cook, steady and unflinching, shielded the girl, shielded the baby. Sparks danced along the walls. Smoke curled into eyes, choked lungs, and still the girl remained calm, steady, small hands pressed against the newborn's back. The fire carried faster than lies, truth burning brighter than the pretense of order. Flames spread along the ceiling, small but deliberate, testing limits. The cook's heart pounded, measuring distance, speed, threat. She yelled over the roar of crackling wood. "Keep them safe." The girl adjusted the baby, careful, precise, steady. Men froze, some stepping back, some flinching. Smoke pressed heavy, thick, choking, demanding attention, action. Cook felt it press into her chest, felt the urgency, the need to protect, the need to survive. Finally, the sheriff retreated, slow, measured, aware of the shift. The cook kept her hands on the girl and the baby, moving toward the corner of the room where the flames had been smallest. Sparks still fell, but control had returned, tension thick but manageable. The girl's eyes met hers, calm, assessing, steady. The mother leaned against the bedpost, trembling, watching, breathing, alive. Smoke cleared just enough to see who stayed, who had survived, who had claimed power in the fire. Cook exhaled, chest tight, lungs burning. Sparks smoldered along the edges. Outside, men whispered, some afraid, some plotting, some just silent. Inside, the girl held the baby, steady, solemn, small hands full of life, courage, and quiet defiance. The cook felt something shift inside herself. Control had slipped. Power had changed hands. The fire had spoken. Dawn crept through the windows, pale and quiet, soft as a whisper. The fire from last night had left its smell in the air, smoke lingering in corners, charred edges marking memory. Cook watched the girl, small and solemn, cradling the baby, both of them quiet, steady. The woman from upstairs emerged, exhausted, shaking, but present. She held her own belly, now softened, and met the girl's gaze. "Say it again," she whispered. "So it sticks," she said, voice low, precise. The girl's lips pressed tight. Cook knelt nearby, hands folded, watching. Names carried weight, power, legacy. Every syllable mattered. The woman's hands shook, but she guided her children through this act of claiming, of identity, of survival. The baby stirred, tiny fists curling, and the girl adjusted, steadying him, small hands deliberate. Cook exhaled slowly, feeling the room's tension ease slightly, the weight of ownership, authority, and truth shifting gently. The sheriff returned, alone. His polished boots clicked softly against the floorboards, careful, measured. "This isn't over," he said, voice calm, almost conversational, but sharp edges cut through the quiet. Cook did not flinch. "It is for them," she replied, steady, deliberate. The girl's eyes flicked toward the doorway. "Can we leave?" she asked, small, tentative, careful. Cook looked at her, chest tightening, and nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "We leave together." The woman repeated the names softly, slowly, over and over, like a ritual. Each word pressed into the air, written soft, heavy, full of meaning. The girl hummed along quietly, small voice steady, patient, helping the words sink in. Cook watched, understanding more than the syllables themselves. The names were shields, anchors, claims made in quiet rebellion against the weight of the house, the land, the history that pressed in on them. The sheriff's gaze lingered, watching the ritual unfold. He did not interrupt, did not speak, but his eyes calculated, measured, weighed. Cook stayed close to the girl and the baby, protective, unyielding. Outside, light stretched across the yard, softening shadows. Inside, rooms hummed with memory, the weight of old rules, the lingering presence of the fire. The house seemed quieter now, holding its breath. Cook crouched, watching the girl's small hands press against the baby's back, steady, precise. She thought of how much had changed in a single night, the fire, the cries, the authority, the chaos. And yet here they were, names written soft, claimed carefully, tenderly, a rebellion against silence, against power, against fear. The girl's eyes met hers, small and unwavering. Cook felt a swell of something fierce, protective, fragile all at once. Bags packed quietly in the corner. The woman's voice whispered the names again, softer this time, fading into the room. Cook checked the baby, adjusting the blanket around him, ensuring he was safe, warm, calm. The girl nodded, hands steady, solemn. The sheriff lingered near the doorway, watching, calculating, understanding that this moment had shifted everything, that control had passed, quietly, firmly, without applause or violence. Cook rose slowly, brushing dust from her apron. The girl adjusted the baby against her chest. Outside, the morning stretched, cold, gentle, full of new possibilities. Cook opened the truck door. The girl turned her small face toward her, eyes steady. "Can we leave?" she asked again. Cook nodded. Yes. Finally. The road waited, empty, silent, open. The woman lingered behind, watching them move. She whispered the names again, softly, gently, like a blessing, like a promise. Cook guided the girl to the truck. The baby stirred, small hands curling and uncurling. Cook felt the weight of everything that had happened press into her chest, the fire, the power, the choices, the lives they were carrying forward. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself. The sheriff finally stepped back, silent, acknowledging without words that this battle, at least, was done. Cook climbed into the truck, careful, deliberate. The girl followed, carrying her brother close, steady, solemn. The engine started, low hum, breaking the quiet. Dust rose behind them, mingling with the smoke that lingered from the fire, trailing shadows of the night's chaos. Cook glanced at the girl, small and steady, tiny face framed by morning light. Names written soft, claimed quiet, identity secured, history acknowledged. The girl's hand rested lightly on the baby's head. Cook's hand hovered briefly over hers, protective, unspoken. The world waited outside the truck, open, long, uncertain. Inside, they carried their own history, their own power, their own defiance. The truck rolled slowly, the ranch shrinking behind them, the house standing silent, shadows lingering. Cook exhaled, letting the weight press down, finally settling. The girl hummed softly, baby stirring, the morning carrying them forward. Names written soft, claimed, held, protected. Cook watched the road open ahead, sun spilling across it, and felt the quiet shift. For them, this was freedom, fragile but real. The truck rumbled slowly over the dirt road, tires crunching gravel, carrying them away from the ranch. Cook's hands gripped the wheel, steady, precise. The girl sat beside her, small and solemn, her brother cradled carefully against her chest. The baby stirred, tiny fists curling and uncurling, eyes blinking sleepily at the morning light. The road stretched ahead, long, empty, open. Behind them, the ranch shrank, shadows retreating, history left simmering in dust and smoke. "You scared?" Cook asked, voice low, careful. The girl shook her head. No, her voice was steady, small, precise. Cook exhaled slowly, tension easing slightly. "Me neither," she admitted, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. The girl's eyes flicked to hers briefly, calm, assessing, understanding. The baby yawned, tiny mouth stretching wide, and she adjusted him carefully, rocking him gently, steadying, small hands full of purpose. Cook glanced in the rearview mirror. The house was gone from view, swallowed by trees in distance. The well, the fire, the rooms, the names memory carried in their minds, pressed into their bones. Nothing erased the past, nothing erased the weight of what had happened, but leaving broke the rhythm, fractured the power, created space. The girl hummed softly, almost imperceptibly, and the baby stirred in response, comforted by her voice, her presence, her steadiness. "You're doing good," Cook said quietly. The girl looked up briefly, small eyes meeting hers. "I'm trying," she replied, calm, solemn. The road curved, sunlight slanting through trees, dust rising behind them and long, thin clouds. The truck engine thrummed beneath them, steady, unrelenting. Cook felt the weight of the land, the memory pressing from behind, but ahead was nothing but choice, movement, and the open horizon. The baby stirred again, tiny whimpers, and the girl adjusted him against her chest, humming a soft rhythm. Cook exhaled slowly. She thought of all they carried, the fire, the names, the stolen authority, the secrets of the well, the silent histories pressed into boards and walls. They carried them carefully, deliberately, small hands cradling life, steady, unbroken, determined. Cook's eyes scanned the road ahead, alert, measuring, cautious. She felt the pull of the past behind them, faint but insistent. "We can keep going," she said, voice calm, steady. The girl nodded. "I know," she said softly. Her small hand rested on her brother's chest, steady, precise, as if she could anchor him to safety through touch alone. Cook felt her chest tighten, proud, wary, protective. This was their choice, their act of defiance against everything that had tried to claim them. The truck climbed a slight hill, winding along the edge of the forest. Sunlight slanted through branches, dust motes dancing in golden streams. The girl looked out the window for the first time since leaving the ranch, small face serene, almost a smile tugging at her lips. The baby yawned, stretching tiny fingers. Cook glanced at them, then back at the road, measuring every turn, every shadow, aware that freedom came with vigilance, awareness, responsibility. "You have a name?" Cook asked gently. The girl looked down at her brother, small face solemn. "Yes," she said finally. Cook paused. "You can keep it," she offered, soft, precise. The girl nodded, tiny hands still steady, resting lightly on the baby's chest. The act of naming had been theirs, private, quiet, claimed with care. It gave them roots, anchors, and a future.